Well, hello everyone, my name is Zwiggojr and welcome to the second installment of beating Pokemon Unbound on insane difficulty with a monotype team. Last time I decided to go with an electric type team, but this time I'm going to be going with the opposite of that, water types. If you haven't seen the last video, I highly recommend that you do so because I explain a lot more about the Elite Four members teams and how they work in that video. So what I'm going to try and do is build a competitive kind of team, go into the Pokemon League of Pokemon Unbound on the highest difficulty and try to beat it. While last time I actually did not go into any breeding or getting the perfect set of stats, this time I actually did do that. I went ahead and grabbed all of the Pokemon, learned from online tutorials how to breed for perfect stats, and now I have made another godlike team. But this time I'm not using any legendary / mythical Pokemon like Tapu Koko or Zeraora or Zapdos like I did in the last video. If you enjoyed this series, definitely click that like button if you haven't done that already. Let's try to hit 3,333 likes. And with that out of the way, let's just jump right into my team. So as my first Pokemon, I went with Pelipper. The biggest reason is because I needed a rain setup and I didn't really want to use Rain Dance, and his ability Drizzle is perfect for that. I'm also running a Wave Incense on him because I just wanted those water type moves to do a little bit more damage. I know I probably should have used like leftovers or something, but I went with the Wave Incense because I didn't have any more leftovers because they're already being used on other team members. On Pelipper, I decided to run max defense and max HP, so he's going to be physically very bulky. As far as the moveset goes, I went with Roost, Knock Off to knock off some items if a Pokemon, for example, is running leftovers, which can get very annoying, and I want to get rid of that. I'm also running Hurricane to try and confuse Pokemon and do major damage, also Scald to try and burn them, and it's just a very good all-around water type move. Now for the second Pokemon, I decided to run Toxapex. This is also a very bulky Pokemon, so I decided to run max defense, max HP on it, and as a held item I have Black Sludge on it to get some HP recovery going as well. As far as the moveset goes, I went with Recover, Toxic, Scald, and Baneful Bunker. And this Toxapex is probably one of the best team members right now. The next Pokemon on the list is Slowking. He's going to be my specially defensive tank. But he's also going to be kind of a sweeper because I'm running max special defense, max special attack on him. I'm also running leftovers to get some HP recovery, and as the moveset I went with Slack Off to get even more HP recovery, Calm Mind to set up with, Psychic, and then also Surf. Now next up is going to be my physical attacker, Swampert. I really wanted to run Mega Swampert, but sadly enough, Mega Swampert is not available in the game yet. So I'm running Life Orb on him to do even more damage. As far as stats go, I decided to go with max attack, max HP. I could have also gone with max speed, but I figured that Swampert isn't really that fast anyway. And with max HP, he's going to be able to tank a lot more. As far as the moveset goes, I decided to go with Earthquake, Waterfall, Ice Punch, and Hammer Arm, just to be able to cover as much bases as possible. Ice Punch is going to be great against the ground type and Dragon type Elite Four members, and the main reason why I kept Hammer Arm is in order to take down Kyurem White. The next Pokemon on the list is Kingdra, and this thing is going to take advantage of Drizzle with Swift Swim to be able to outspeed everything. I'm also running leftovers on it to get some extra recovery. As far as stats go, I went with max speed, max special attack. As far as the moveset goes, I went with Laser Focus to try and get some critical hits in. Ice Beam for those Dragon and ground types. Dragon Pulse is just a very good stab move. I could have gone with Draco Meteor, but I didn't want to deal with the special attack drops. And last, Scald once again as a burn move, and another good water stab move. Now the last Pokemon on the team is Starmie, and the reason why I went with Starmie is because I still needed a good special attacker that was also very fast. And Starmie's move pool is also pretty wide. So I ran Choice Specs on it to, of course, increase those special attacking moves. Max speed and max special attack too, and the moveset is Scald, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Psychic. But to be completely honest, Starmie was probably the worst team member. So let's jump right into the first Elite Four member battle with Moleman and his ground type Pokemon. He leads off with Aerodactyl and Excadrill, and I decided to double up on Aerodactyl with Scald and Waterfall from Swampert. On the first turn, he immediately switches out Excadrill into Quagsire, and he also Mega Evolves his Aerodactyl and goes for a Taunt, but my Scald Waterfall combo takes it down. He then sends out his Excadrill once again, and now I go for the Scald Earthquake combo because Earthquake doesn't hit my Pelipper anyway, and this way Excadrill goes down immediately, and I also do some decent damage on Quagsire. But we did get hit with a Rock Slide, which did hurt Pelipper quite a bit. Next up is Groudon, and I decide to go for the Scald Earthquake combo once again in order to take down Quagsire and do some okay damage against Groudon. But the Groudon did take down Pelipper with Rock Slide. I then threw out Kingdra and he sent in his Gliscor. I went with Scald on Groudon and burned him, and I went with Ice Punch on Gliscor in order to take it out in one hit. Next up is Landorus, so I go for the Ice Beam Ice Punch combo, which takes it out from full health, and at the end of the battle, my Swampert does go down by the Earthquake from Groudon, but my Kingdra hangs on, and the Groudon goes down to the burn damage, and that's already the first Elite Four member battle out of the way. The second Elite Four member I decided to take on was Elias with his Ghost types, and he leads off with his Mimikyu as I lead off with my Toxapex in this one. I go for the Toxic straight away because I know that this thing is not going to be able to take me down with physical attacks. He does set up a Swords Dance, and next turn I go for Baneful Bunker as he goes for his Z move. He does do a little bit of damage because Z moves go through Protect, but then they do less damage, and then I just go for Scald the next turn as he hits me with a Shadow Claw. The next two turns he hits me with two more Shadow Claws, and I go for Recover twice more, and the toxic damage eventually takes him down. Next on the list is Giratina, and he immediately burns me with Will-O-Wisp, and I go for the toxic. After poisoning him, I go into Pelipper to go for the knockoff and get rid of his leftovers. He then burns me with a Will-O-Wisp, and I go for a couple of Roosts in order to survive, before the toxic damage eventually takes him down into killing range from our Hurricane. After then taking him down with said Hurricane, he switches in Aegis Slash, and I know that this thing is just going to take down my Pelipper with Shadow Sneak, so I let my Pelipper just go down. I then go into Kingdra, and the Aegis Slash sets up a Swords Dance, so two of my Scalds are enough to take him down. Next up is Gengar, and my Kingdra is able to hit one Dragon Pulse, but two Dazzling Gleams sadly enough take me down as well. So I then go into Slowking, who is able to tank a Shadow Ball and take down Gengar with Psychic. He then sends in Blacephalon to take down my Slowking with a Shadow Ball once again. So I switch in Swampert, who kills the Blacephalon with a Waterfall after getting hit with another Shadow Ball. He then goes into Chandelure, who was able to take down my Swampert with another Shadow Ball. I then go into Starmie, hit a Scald on the Chandelure, but this sadly enough does not take it down, and Starmie is out of here by another Shadow Ball. So I then go into Toxapex, who can finally finish off the Chandelure with another Scald. And with that, we managed to defeat the second Elite Four member, Elias. Now it's time for us to move on to the third Elite Four member, which is going to be Penny, the Dragon type user. This is once again another double battle, and she leads off with Tyrantrum and Goodra. And I decide to lead off with Swampert and Kingdra. I get hit by a Rock Slide and a Muddy Water, but my Kingdra is able to take down Tyrantrum with a single Dragon Pulse. I also hit an Ice Punch on the Goodra to do some decent damage. The next Pokemon she sends out is an Kyurem White. So I try to double up on it with Hammer Arm and Dragon Pulse, but then Ice Beam takes down my Swampert immediately. And because of all the accuracy drops, my Dragon Pulse also misses. I then go into Slowking so that he can tank some hits with its very nice special defense. And I also go ahead and set up a Calm Mind. But my Kingdra does get taken out by the Kyurem. After Kingdra goes down, I send in my Toxapex in order to go for a Toxic on the Kyurem, as I do get hit with a Dragon Breath, which does paralyze me, but because of my ability, it immediately gets rid of it. I also set up another Calm Mind with my Slowking. Next turn I go for a Baneful Bunker and another Calm Mind with Slowbro, and we get hit with another Muddy Water, lowering my accuracy once again. The turn after, I accidentally misclicked because I meant to go for Recover, but I went for another Baneful Bunker, and because of that, my Toxapex is almost taken out. But I'm able to set up one more Calm Mind with Slowking once again. The turn after, I try to save my Toxapex, but it sadly goes down to another Dragon Breath from Kyurem, as my Slowking sets up another Calm Mind. But the Kyurem also gets taken out by the toxic damage finally. I then decided to switch in Starmie and she send in her Dragonite. I go for an Ice Beam which takes down the Dragonite from full health. I get hit with another Muddy Water and my Slowking sets up another Calm Mind. The next Pokemon she sends out is her Mega Altaria, and I try to go for an Ice Beam with Starmie once again, and I misclick with my Slowking because I didn't want to go for another Calm Mind. I wanted to go ahead and wreak havoc, but I misclicked and I went for another Calm Mind, which did nothing. The Altaria did almost take down my Starmie with a Hyper Voice, and it also get hit by another Muddy Water, but it managed to hang on, and the next turn I went for Ice Beam to take down Altaria, but the Goodra took down Starmie as she sent out her final Pokemon Como-O, and I send out my Pelipper. And of course my Slowking had to miss his Psychic. Now I tried to double up on the Como-O with Hurricane and Psychic, but it went for its Z move, which took down Pelipper from full health. But my Slowking was able to hang on because of all the special defense boosts. Now I only have my Slowking left, but because of the boosts, I should be able to win this despite all of the accuracy drops. So I do get hit with a lot of luckily special moves, which I can tank very well, as I try to go for Psychics, but I struggle to hit one. They also paralyze me with another Dragon Breath, which lowers my chances to hit even more. And so eventually I did have to use a Slack Off, because I didn't want to die by a critical hit. The turn after, I finally hit a Psychic on the Como-O and it went down immediately. And immediately after that, I hit another Psychic which takes down Goodra and wins me the battle. If I didn't sit up with Slowking, I would have never ever been able to win this battle. And so we can now move on to the final Elite Four member, Annabelle, and her fairy types. She starts off with Ninetales and I lead off with my Toxapex, even though I can't use any of my status moves on it. I decided to just use all of my Scalds in order to take down Ninetales eventually, and while I was getting down into red health way quicker, I just used Recover to get my health back. Eventually, after spamming all of those Scalds, Ninetales went down. Next up is Azumarill, and I decide to switch out my Toxapex for Starmie. While I do that, the Azumarill does set up an Aqua Tail, which is very worrying. And so I go for a Thunderbolt with Starmie, but it doesn't even take down Azumarill, and an Aqua Tail takes down Starmie. I then switch in Pelipper to try and outspeed, but it goes for Aqua Jet this time, doing even more than half of my HP, and I'm physically defensive. Luckily, my Hurricane hits, which finally takes down Azumarill. Now, the next Pokemon she sends out is Sylveon, and this is my opportunity to set up with Slowking, so I immediately switch out into him. While the Sylveon kept on going for Calm Minds as well, I decided to just set up with Slowking too. The Sylveon also had the move Mystic Fire, which lowers my special attack by a stage if it's used, but I didn't let that get in my way, I just waited until it ran out of those moves. But another annoying thing about the Sylveon was that it had Wish, so if I got it down into red health or in orange health, it could just wish and get all of its HP back. Luckily, I could do the same thing with Slack Off if it got me down into low health. And so that's what I did. I just kept on Calm Minding and Slack Offing until I eventually had max special attack again, and then I took down the Sylveon with a couple of Surfs. The next Pokemon on the list is Mega Mawile, and I was very afraid that this thing was just going to one-shot Slowking with Sucker Punch, but luckily I was able to hang on and kill it with a single Surf after that. Next up was the thing that I was very scared of, Xerneas. I knew that it was going to go for Geomancy, so I decided to heal up with Slack Off. After getting some HP back, he then went for Moonblast, and I went for one more Slack Off before I decided to take it down with a couple of Surfs. Now, her last Pokemon was Togekiss, and I thought I can also just one-shot this with Surf, but it went for Air Slash and got a critical hit, which actually took down my Slowking. So I went into Kingdra to try and hit an Ice Beam, but I got Air Slashed and I flinched. So one more Air Slash and my Kingdra was down too. So I then went into Swampert, hit an Ice Punch, and got the critical hit in order to take down Togekiss. And with that, we have officially defeated the Elite Four, which means that we can move on to the champion battle with YouTube once again. But this battle once again was very easy because I won on my first attempt again. Even though he does have the most diverse team of this Elite Four, he is just the easiest to take down somehow. Now let's get into the battle. He leads off with his Mamoswine again, and I decide to lead off with Starmie. I go for a Scald Scald, but he predicts that and goes into Vaporeon, which has Water Absorb. So I then switch in my Toxapex and go for the Toxic immediately, because I know if this is going to be a stall battle that Toxapex is easily going to outstall Vaporeon. After I poisoned the Vaporeon, I just kept on switching between Baneful Bunker, Recover, and Toxic, because I didn't really want to use all of my Baneful Bunkers and Recover. That's why I was going to go for Toxic in there as well. After a couple of turns, the Toxic damage has racked up and the Vaporeon finally goes down, and he then sends in his Haxorus. So I go for a Toxic on that thing once again, and the next turn I actually misclick and go for Toxic again, but he switched out his Haxorus into Volcanion, so he's now poisoned too. I then somehow go for a Scald because I'm stupid, but this Volcanion also has Water Absorb, so it doesn't really do anything. And he also set up a Substitute. So I didn't really want to outstall this Volcanion, so I decided to switch in Pelipper. And this was a very good switch because the Volcanion actually went for Earth Power, and that of course does not affect Pelipper and would have done a lot of damage on Toxapex. I then get hit with a Steam Pump and I hit a knockoff, but that doesn't even break the Substitute. And the Steam Pump did a lot of damage on Pelipper. So sadly enough, next turn he went for Steam Pump again and my Pelipper is now dead. Luckily the Life Orb damage and the poison damage combined killed the Volcanion in the same turn as well. After that I decided to switch in Kingdra because the rain is still up, so I'm going to be able to outspeed anything. And he sends in his Haxorus. So I go for the Dragon Pulse, and this is enough to one-shot Haxorus. He then switches in his Mamoswine, and I go for a Scald, but he hangs on with his Focus Sash. And he also sets up some Stealth Rocks. Next turn I go for another Scald, but I do first get hit by an Ice Shard, and the Scald takes down Mamoswine. Next on out is 2 Cannons, so I go for the Ice Beam, and I do get hit with a Rock Blast, but my Kingdra is bulky enough to hang on, so next turn I go for one more Ice Beam, and 2 Cannon is already out of here. Now last up is Tyranitar, so I go for the Scald and get super lucky by burning him as he goes for a Dragon Dance. I then hit one more Scald, but then sadly enough my Kingdra gets taken out by a Crunch. Luckily I still have Starmie, so I send that thing in, go for the Scald to outspeed the Tyranitar and take him down to win myself the champion battle. And with that I have defeated Pokemon Unbound with only Water type Pokemon on the insane difficulty. Now I actually make these battles seem pretty easy, but I actually have to attempt a lot of them at least over 20 times to go ahead and see what the best strategy is to take them down easy. But I don't even mind doing that because this is actually a fun kind of series. I really enjoy making these teams, training them up, giving them the good movesets, grinding EVs and stuff like that. This is by far my favorite series that I've ever done on the channel. And at this time I've put over 160 hours into Pokemon Unbound. That is of course with speed up, but I don't think I've ever put this many hours into a Pokemon ROM hack and enjoyed it this much. Once again, you can vote in the comments down below which type I should do next. You can also leave some teams in the comments that I could try to use. Of course, if you have any tips for me so that I can become better at this series, definitely leave those in the comments too. And with that out of the way, I want to thank the Patreon and membership supporters as always. Thank you so much for supporting me. If you want to do so yourself, the link is in the description. And as always people, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe and share this video with your friends. I'm Zwiggo and I'll see you guys next time.